Hey everybody, welcome back to the Social Trucker. And basically since last week I've been meaning to shoot this video. I finished with the analysis of what I was doing with this COVID data. I finished it last week. I just haven't had time. I've been at work. I also work as a clinical social worker. So I had a lot going on this week, and I'm eager to get back to it. Today is the 20th of June 2020, and we are looking at the first page of my Excel sheet. This is a picture. There's my smiling face. I'm sure you don't really care too much about that, but let's get right to it. Wanted to explain what we had going on in terms of how within 600 miles of my home, how Texas looks. So that was my original question. That's all I was interested in. That's how and why I built this data sheet, collected all the data from this website. This is from last week. Again, this 6/12. It was last Friday. And this is Saturday, the 20th of June, right now as we speak. Anyway, the data is from the 14th. They typically don't, Texas does not update their data on past the weekend, so only on Monday through Friday. And so, besides San Antonio, Austin, El Paso, Dallas, and Fort Worth, these are all within 600 miles of my home. I lived in El Paso for 7 years. I currently live in San Antonio, and all these cities are within, basically a lot of places that I visit. I go through Houston a lot in my trucking business. I've gone through and picked up and delivered to Houston. And so it's really important to me. I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Philadelphia, got a lot of friends in this area. I was stationed just south of Baltimore, and was also stationed in Bethesda, Maryland, which is, or close to Bethesda, sorry, Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. So DC is, these areas interest me, obviously. Got a lot of family in Philly. Visited California a couple times, twice for conferences. San Diego, real close friends in LA, and close friend in San Francisco, and then great friend, another trucker buddy in Mississippi. So I'm real interested in the Deep South, and all these other places. So to answer these questions, if you want to find out my references, let me just go over here real quick and show you. My references are on this at Social Trucker. So look me up on Twitter. But I've posted all my references in on my page, so just take a look at that. And I'm not going to go through that now, but as far as population and where I get the COVID data, all that stuff is posted on my page at Social Trucker. So I simply took information off the websites and got this data. This was current as of 12 June and 14 June. And that's pretty straightforward. The other thing that I was really interested in doing is answering some questions, which are, what I already mentioned, but what do the big cities within 300 to 600 miles of my home, what do their infection rates look like? How many infected, how many dead? Then I want to know, of those infected people, how many die? And we got, percentages all across the board. And what percentage of those infected are in the population, are from the population. So pretty low as far as who was confirmed infected with COVID-19, or not COVID-19, but novel coronavirus. Okay. And then the last thing that I would be the most important thing that, or one of the more important things that I'll be interested in, how to compare lots of different cities against the other cities, would be to say, all right, I'll divide the population by how many dead that they're reporting, and then that'll allow me to at a glance to compare. So red is worse, green is better, and these are by time periods. So 1 May through 12 June. We've got the Mid-Atlantic cities. Check out the comparison of Texas versus the Mid-Atlantic. So those are Texas. I'll just scroll up just a little bit, a hair, so you can see. Look at these numbers. I mean, San Antonio, this is San Antonio, 31,000. For every 32,000 people, there's one COVID death. And then on the 12th of June, it's like for every 17,000 people in San Antonio, there's one COVID death, compared to El Paso, which is worse. They started out at about the same. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Dallas looks a lot worse than San Antonio, and Houston is, somewhere in between, but getting worse. Texas overall looks pretty good, but it does include these other numbers, right? A lot of interesting analysis can come out of this. But compared to the East Coast, I mean, we're looking in like the teens and then the almost, almost 5 figures here compared to 4 figures, low 4 figures. New York obviously is one of those. I kind of consider New York an outlier, but I still included it in the analysis because you need to be able to compare and at a glance which ones are worse and which ones are better. Again, green is better. The darker the shade of green, the better, and then the pinker or the redder, it's red, the worse you are doing. One thing about Texas, just a quick note, is a lot of people think that our cities are small. El Paso is not a small city, and these are just the cities themselves. So Pittsburgh has more than that in the county. And here's another place, real quick, is where county data is different. So let me look back up here on the first sheet. See, San Antonio is much bigger as Bexar County. Bexar County, Travis County. This is Tarrant County. This is Dallas County, and this is Harris County. The counties themselves are bigger, but the cities themselves, you want to compare city against city, they're not as big. So 2 million in San Antonio for Bexar County, but in San Antonio itself, 1.5. Houston is 4 million in Harris County, but 2.3 in the city itself. But look across the board. I mean, Texas has some really, really big cities. I combined Dallas and Fort Worth just because that area in North Texas is huge. It's massive. But so then what I was interested in after looking at all these cities, comparing them, is also California. California looks a lot like Texas. Again, the populations. Let's just scroll down a bit. You'll be able to see everything together in this slide here. We've got everything compared against everything. New York, Philly, DC, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, California, both Texas, and then the 5 big counties. El Paso was not included in those counties. I just included Dallas, Fort Worth, Harris County, which is Houston, Austin, and then San Antonio. Just included those counties. in Texas, and I compared them all against each other. Red is better, or red is worse. The darker the shade of red, it's worse, and the greener, the better. Compared to each other. Okay, and then the Deep South. Those compared against each other are pretty interesting as well. So, in thinking about what are the differences, well, sometimes you hear stuff on the internet like this is a big hoax. One of the things that I think about, just like a common sense thing that I think about, is one, anybody can find this data from coast to coast, based in Mississippi, based on their, from their websites, what they're reporting. But what does Mississippi have anything to do with Pittsburgh? What does Pittsburgh have anything to do with Georgia? What does Georgia have anything to do with New York City? My point is, all these places are reporting significant COVID, or not COVID, but novel coronavirus, significant infections and significant amounts of dead from coast to coast. So you can't just, people like to say things and not back them up with numbers. You can't just dismiss it and say it doesn't exist or it's a hoax. New York City has nothing to do with Alabama, nothing. But yet we see, that lots of people are dying in Alabama. A significant amount of people are dying in Alabama. 769 people, there's 769 souls are dying, and it's just a huge tragedy. It's a horrible thing. But this is kind of a hobby because I am interested in keeping my own family safe and knowing what's going on around me. Anyone can do their own multiplication and division, mess with Excel sheets. I've done an explainer video showing how to get how to work with these cells, how to get the different formulas, and for some reason it's not showing me right now. It's pretty funny. But in Texas, the blue is the population, and the infected is the orange. This is just for perspective. And then here's the dead. All of this is the infected population. So basically what you're doing is taking this infected population, and then they become the entire population. You want to see how many dead are in there? That's the representation of what it kind of looks like. Same thing with California. Excel is a very, very easy thing to use. So then, obviously, these places look very, very different. So Louisiana, in terms of COVID infections and deaths, it looks very different. The infected rates. Alabama is one state over from Louisiana. Mississippi, right next to Louisiana. Why are they so different? What is so different? Georgia's not very far away. Georgia's right next to Alabama, but it's a few states over, east of Louisiana. Well, as far as rates, it's actually not that different. It's actually it's a little similar. Texas, it's within the same region. All these cities look pretty familiar, and they're all relatively close together. Baltimore, Philly, and uh, DC are very close, within a couple hours of each other. As it is, New York is very close by. Pittsburgh is 300 miles west of Philly. It's probably 250 miles west of Baltimore, and a little tiny bit further than DC. But all of these cities look pretty similar as well. So, what would be the difference between the North and the South per se? It could be vitamin D. It could be something as simple as vitamin D. There's some studies that came out. I'll post the links to my social trucker on Twitter, and post all those links. And perhaps that's the difference of the vitamin D levels between the South and the North. Darker skinned people do not metabolize and produce vitamin D the same as lighter skinned people. And so, perhaps that's one of the differences with the demographics of, say, the bigger East Coast cities. A lot of darker skinned people live there. I used to live there. um, versus the South, we don't have as many uh, darker skinned people in San Antonio, Dallas, and Fort Worth. San Antonio, Austin, and El Paso. El Paso is like 85% Hispanic. Um, and so maybe that's the difference. Yeah, I don't know. Some people think that Texas is deliberately undercounting their COVID-19 infections. I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just reporting the numbers, as I kind of see it, and in some places that I'm very interested in. Love to hear your comments and questions and thoughts about all of this. You guys stay safe and be careful out there. God bless you.